Picture this, a quaint, seemingly peaceful English village shattered by a chilling discovery. In the heart of the English countryside, nestled amidst rolling hills and ancient oaks, lay the tranquil village of Middlewood, a place where time seemed to move at its own leisurely pace, where every face was familiar and every secret known. Yet one fateful morning, this serene setting was marred by an unsettling revelation. The well-respected local art dealer, Gilbert Hawthorne, was found lifeless in his grand Tudor-style home. A man of considerable repute and charm, Hawthorne was a pillar of the community, known for his keen eye for art and his generous contributions to local causes. His untimely demise sent tremors of shock and confusion through the heart of Middlewood. It was a scene that seemed more suited to the pages of an Agatha Christie novel than the peaceful lanes of a rural English village. The discovery of Hawthorne's body, cold and still, in the midst of his treasure trove of art, was a jarring juxtaposition of beauty and horror. The incongruity was stark. Such a brutal act seemed out of place in the picturesque tranquility of Middlewood. As news of Hawthorne's death spread, murmurs of disbelief echoed through the village. The local pub, usually filled with laughter and banter, was hushed as whispers of the tragedy filled the air. The local constable, more accustomed to settling minor disputes than investigating serious crimes, was faced with a task that seemed insurmountable. The village was awash with questions. Who would want to harm such a beloved figure? How could such an atrocity occur in a place where crime was a rarity, not a norm? And most importantly, was the killer one of their own? In the midst of the shock, one thing became clear. Middlewood was no longer the idyllic haven it once was. The tranquility and peace that had once defined the village was now tainted with a sense of unease and fear. As the news spread, the tranquil village was gripped with fear and uncertainty. With the scene set, the local police force embarks on an arduous journey to uncover the truth. The early stages of an investigation are often a whirlwind of activity, a flurry of clues and leads to chase down. Yet in this peculiar case, the pieces of the puzzle refused to fall into place. The crime scene was void of any obvious clues. No fingerprints, no footprints, not a single strand of hair, as if the perpetrator had vanished into thin air. The lack of obvious motive or suspects added another layer of complexity to the case. The victim, Gilbert Hawthorne, had no known enemies. His life revolved around his art gallery, a hub of the community. His sudden demise left the townsfolk in shock, their sense of safety shattered. As the days turned into weeks, the pressure from the community for answers grew. Rumors were swirling, fear was spreading. The local police force, usually dealing with trivial offenses, found themselves in the spotlight, tasked with solving a mystery that seemed to defy logic. In the midst of all this chaos, one person stood tall. The lead detective on the case was a seasoned professional, known for his uncanny ability to solve the most difficult of cases. Detective Inspector John Barnsley was his name. A man of few words, Barnsley had a reputation for being relentless in his pursuit of justice. He had a knack for seeing what others missed, for connecting dots that others couldn't. With a steely gaze and a mind sharper than a razor, Hawthorne was the beacon of hope amidst the cloud of uncertainty. As the investigation unfolded, Barnsley remained unflustered. He knew the importance of patience in a case like this. He understood that the path to justice was often long and winding, filled with dead ends and unexpected turns. But he was not one to be deterred. He was a man on a mission, driven by a sense of duty and an unwavering belief in the power of truth. In the face of mounting pressure, the detective remained resolute, determined to uncover the truth. Just when it seemed like the case was turning cold, a startling revelation came to light. The investigators, previously stumped and frustrated, stumbled upon an unexpected discovery. Tucked away in the heart of the victim's home, a secret room was found. But this was no ordinary room. It was a clandestine den filled to the brim with counterfeit art. Canvases of famous masterpieces, expertly replicated but with a hint of forgery. A shocking twist that no one saw coming. The victim, an art dealer by trade, known for his gracious demeanor and love for the classics, was now under a new light. His peaceful exterior masked a hidden life steeped in the world of forgery and deceit. This unanticipated turn of events sent ripples of shock that echoed through the community. The seemingly harmless art dealer had been living a double life. one that was now splashed in shades of grey. The investigators were taken aback. The case, initially thought to be a simple homicide, was now far more complex. The victim's secret life had introduced a new layer of intrigue. The counterfeit art suggested a connection to the shadowy underbelly of the art world, a realm inhabited by criminals and con artists. It raised a myriad of questions. Was the victim involved in the illegal art trade? Did his clandestine activities lead to his untimely demise? The community, too, was left reeling. The art dealer, who had been a beloved figure, was now a subject of suspicion and intrigue. His secret life, revealed in such a shocking manner, left many questioning what they thought they knew. The tranquility of their small town had been shattered, replaced by whispers of scandal and speculation. The peaceful art dealer's life was not as it seemed, casting a long shadow of doubt across the investigation. As the case took a dramatic turn, the hunt for the killer became a journey into a world of art, deceit, and deadly secrets. The stage was set for a thrilling chase, with every detail potentially holding the key to the mystery. With a fresh lead at hand, the investigation took on a renewed fervor. Our detective now found himself immersed in the shadowy underbelly of the art world, a realm where masterpieces were replicated and sold as originals. A world where the line between legality and criminality was as blurred as the brushstrokes on a Monet. The lead suggested that the killer was not just a common thug, but an artist of deception, a maestro of forgery. The detective's pursuit took him through labyrinthine alleys of London, into dimly lit shops filled with canvases, brushes, and the intoxicating scent of paint and turpentine. He met with art dealers, collectors, and critics, each one more eccentric than the last. Their conversations were filled with references to Caravaggio's chiaroscuro, Van Gogh's impasto, and the subtle hues of Vermeer. It was a world that was foreign to our detective, but he learned quickly, understanding that in this world, the devil was truly in the details. Each day brought him closer to the killer, but the path was fraught with danger. Threats were delivered in cryptic messages, a slashed canvas here, a broken brush there. The detective understood the implications. He was getting too close, and the killer wanted him to back off. But our detective was not one to be deterred. He was a bloodhound on a scent. He pressed on, his resolve hardened by the threats. He knew he had to tread carefully, for in this world, a wrong step could be his last. The detective's pursuit of the killer was not just a hunt, it was a game of cat and mouse, a high-stakes game where every move mattered. He had to outwit, outmaneuver, and outpace his adversary. He was no longer just a detective, he was a player in a deadly game. As the detective ventured deeper into the forgery ring, the danger escalated. He knew he was close to the killer, but the closer he got, the more perilous the journey became. The hunt was on, and the detective was determined to bring the killer to justice. In the midst of chaos, a single thread of evidence emerged, pointing to the killer. The breakthrough in this intricate web of deceit came in the form of a fingerprint. Not just any fingerprint, mind you, but one that was found on one of the counterfeit artworks that had been circulating in the city's underbelly. This wasn't an accidental brush of a hand, nor a careless oversight. This was a mark that had been left behind. A sign that, like a signature at the bottom of a painting, screamed the identity of its maker. The print was linked to a known forger, notorious for his ability to mimic the works of the masters to an uncanny degree. This was a man who had made a living out of deception, whose hands were as skilled in creating as they were in concealing. But this time, he had left behind a trace of himself, a tiny fragment of his identity imprinted on a canvas of crime. The discovery set off a race against time. The police had a name, a face, and a crime. What they didn't have was the man himself. The hunt intensified. The city became a giant chessboard where law enforcement and criminal danced around each other, each trying to outwit the other. With each passing minute, the urgency grew stronger. They were not just chasing a killer now, they were chasing a ghost, a phantom that slipped through their fingers like sand. But they were closing in. Every lead was followed, every corner checked, every stone unturned. The net was tightening, the game was nearing its end. Time was of the essence. Every second that passed was a second lost, a second that the forger could use to slip away, to disappear into the shadows from whence he came. But equally, Every second was a second closer to justice, to the end of this deadly game of cat and mouse. Every second counted as the police closed in on their suspect. The breakthrough had set the wheels in motion, and there was no stopping until the forger was caught, the crime solved, and justice served. After a tense pursuit, the suspect was finally in custody, but the battle was far from over. The arrest was a dramatic culmination of weeks of diligent investigation. On a bleak, drizzling Tuesday, the suspect was apprehended without incident, a stark contrast to the violent crimes he was accused of. Yet, his calm demeanor belied the storm that was about to unfold in the courtroom. The trial began on a crisp autumn morning. The courtroom was a cauldron of tension, its palpable silence occasionally broken by the shuffling of papers and hushed whispers. The suspect, now the defendant, sat stoically in the dock, his face betraying no emotion. The prosecution was ready, armed with a mountain of evidence and a determination to seek justice. As the trial progressed, the drama heightened. Witnesses took the stand, their testimonies painting a chilling picture of the accused. Forensic experts presented damning evidence, their findings pointing towards the defendant's guilt. The defense, however, was not to be outdone. They challenged every piece of evidence, every testimony, fighting tooth and nail to sow seeds of reasonable doubt. The prosecutor's closing arguments were a masterclass in rhetoric, a compelling narrative woven together with hard evidence. He urged the jury to consider the overwhelming proof of the defendant's guilt. The defense, in their closing, painted a different picture. They argued that the prosecution's case was riddled with inconsistencies and that the evidence was circumstantial at best. As the trial drew to a close, the tension in the courtroom was almost unbearable. The defendant, his fate hanging in the balance, stared blankly ahead. The jury, now burdened with the weighty task of deciding his fate, filed out of the courtroom to deliberate. The fate of the accused now lay in the hands of the jury. As the jury returned, a hushed silence fell over the courtroom. The anticipation was palpable, the air heavy with the weight of the impending verdict. The fate of the accused, the closure of the community, all hung in the balance. The foreperson rose, holding the destiny of the trial in their hands. We, the jury, find the defendant. The pause was torturous, the suspense building. Guilty as charged. A collective sigh of relief echoed through the courtroom. The tension that had been building over the weeks of the trial seemed to dissipate, replaced by a sense of relief and resolution. The community that had been rocked by the brutal crime could finally start to breathe again. The fear that had gripped the once peaceful village began to wane, replaced by a sense of justice, of right prevailing over wrong. The verdict brought closure, a chance for the villagers to start the long process of healing, to reclaim their sense of security. But the trial did more than just bring a criminal to justice. It also unveiled unexpected layers of the victim's life, a life that was not without its complexities and contradictions. The investigation revealed a person who was much more than just a victim, a person who lived, loved, and was deeply embedded in the fabric of the community. A person whose loss was felt deeply, not just because of the tragic circumstances of their death, but because of the life they had lived. The verdict, in many ways, was a testament to this life. It was a statement that every life matters, that every person deserves justice, regardless of the complexities of their existence. It was a confirmation of the belief that justice is not just about punishment, but also about recognition, about understanding, about empathy. In the end, justice was served, and the once peaceful village could finally start to heal. The echoes of the gavel resonated through the courtroom, marking the end of a chapter, the beginning of another. A chapter of healing, of rebuilding, of remembering, and most importantly, of justice. Thank you for watching. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for more of these stories.